In 1967, Kenji and Ikuko Takeuchi didn't know it yet, but they would give birth to a mangaka that would forever change the anime and manga world and so many lives. This is the story of Naoko Takeuchi. Naoko Takeuchi was born on March 15, 1967 in Kofu, Yamanashi, Japan. She grew up with her younger brother, Shingo. Manga was a huge part of her life from a young age, as she has been quoted in a 2013 article from Rolla saying, "When I was in kindergarten, I had 3 cousins, all sisters, who lived next door, who used to always show me their manga. I loved Aim for the Ace, Rose of Versailles, Haikara-san go Tuoro, Suna no Shiro, and others. My cousins set the standard." This interest blossomed quickly. Some of her favorite works in her early years are from mangaka that explored difficult but dark worlds, and also beautiful dramatic works. Some of these mangaka are Machiko Satonaka, Waki Yamato, Yumiko Igarashi, Moto Hagio, and many more. She looked up to these mangaka like they were goddesses. She even collected all of Suzui Miyuchi's Tankuban releases, and cites the essence of her most famous work, Sailor Moon, to come from many different places and genres. Takeuchi attended Kofu-ichi High School, where she admits to buying a how to draw anime sales kit from a local anime shop and used to draw with it a lot. She even used to play hooky from school and go to a ton of different anime shops, calling herself a total nerd girl. Takeuchi was in the astronomy club and in the manga club in high school, and her earliest known work was at the age of 17 titled Kare wa no Sugar, or My Boyfriend is No Sugar. At the age of 18, while still in high school, Takeuchi debuted her first manga to the world with the short story Yume ja nai no ne. It received the second place prize in Nakayoshi for newcomers, which is a monthly shoujo magazine published by Kodansha in Japan. Takeuchi attributes her high school years as extremely formative, and she decided she wanted to become a manga artist during those years. Although this was her dream, her father encouraged her to go to college for a more traditional path just in case manga didn't work out. So with this advice, Naoko attended Kyoritsu University, where she studied chemistry and eventually became a licensed pharmacist. Her senior thesis was called Heightened Effects of Thrombolytic Actions Due to Ultrasound. During college, Takeuchi's success in the manga industry only grew as she released her next hit, Love Call. Love Call received the Nakayoshi New Mangaka Award for New Manga Artists and was published in the September 1986 issue of the magazine Nakayoshi Deluxe. Takeuchi also worked as a miko at the Shiba Daijingu Shrine near her university. This experience later became an inspiration for Rei Ino, one of her characters in Sailor Moon. Takeuchi considers her manga start late, as she ended up getting a regular job as a licensed pharmacist at Keio Hospital in Tokyo. It was there she made friends with coworkers, and when asked about her inspiration of drawing empowering female characters, she said, "These days women really have the upper hand in Japanese society, don't they? My friends and I would have chats about relationships or work, and we'd always conclude that we shouldn't depend on men. I think that women are actually stronger, and I wanted to draw that in Sailor Moon. Maybe that's why my male characters die off so easily." During her time at Keio, Takeuchi didn't give up on her dream of becoming a manga artist. With her own passion and the support of her editor to continue this path, she created her first 2 successful one-shot mangas, Chocolate Christmas, which was published in 1988, and Maria, which was published in 1989, 3 years after she graduated college. Both mangas told the emotional stories of adolescent girls. Chocolate Christmas was about a lonely main character who develops a crush on someone around Christmas time named Choco-san, hence the name Chocolate Christmas. Maria was based off of the 1912 novel Daddy Longlegs by Jean Webster, and also on her friend who helped write the story, Marie Koizumi. After finishing Maria, Takeuchi worked on an ice skating series called The Cherry Project, which serialized in Nakayoshi from late 1990 to 1991. While working on The Cherry Project, Takeuchi wanted to create a manga about outer space and girl fighters with magical powers. Her editor suggested to put the fighters in sailor suits like traditional school uniforms in Japan, not unlike what Takeuchi actually wore as a student herself. This concept would later become a one-shot called Codenamed Sailor V, which would begin serialization in Kodansha's Run Run magazine. Little did she know, Codenamed Sailor V would be the start of something special. Codenamed Sailor V revolves around the main character, Minako Aino, a 13-year-old student who finds out she has magical powers which she must use to save the world. As a result of this story's popularity, Toei Animation offered to adapt it into an anime series. Takeuchi reworked the story and also added 4 more superheroes, thus creating the series series everyone knows and loves, Sailor Moon. In December 1991, Nakayoshi began serializing Sailor Moon, which became an instant hit. The series follows the adventures of a schoolgirl named Usagi Tsukino as she transforms into Sailor Moon to search for the magical artifact, the legendary Silver Crystal. She leads a group called the Sailor Guardians as they battle against villains to prevent the theft of the Silver Crystal and the destruction of the solar system. Now strap in, because there's a lot of information that revolves around Naoko Takeuchi and Sailor Moon. Before we jump into it, if you are enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a lot, and you can always unsubscribe later. The story rose to success and has been branded as one of, if not the best shoujo manga of all time, even decades after its release. When asked about her inspiration for Sailor Moon, Takeuchi says, "Love is essential in every manga I write. Even if in Sailor Moon I inserted a lot of fights, nothing has changed since my previous works. Sailor Moon isn't just a typical shoujo, and that is part of the reason it is and was so popular. Typical shoujos are romance-centered and don't include the amount of action that Sailor Moon did at the time. It was an empowering manga with a female-centric cast, something most readers had not seen at the release." When asked about her inspiration to make a story about superhero women, Takeuchi is quoted saying, "I don't remember exactly. I wanted to make a series like Goranger, but with a squad of 5 fighting girls. Pretty girls who would transform to battle bad guys." During her creation process, Takeuchi kept her inspirations very close to her. She used much of her own personal life as an influence for Sailor Moon. She based Usagi's immediate family off her own. All members of Usagi's family are members of Takeuchi's family. Since Takeuchi earned a degree in chemistry, it is why many Sailor Moon characters are named after minerals and gemstones. The neighborhood Usagi lives in is even based on the neighborhood Takeuchi grew up in. Many were curious about her decision to make such empowering women as the main protagonists, and as she has stated, it's because, quote, "At the time, because I was personally very independent, I suppose it is natural that my characters also shared my traits. I think that the grand scale of the story I created also reflected my own personal liberation. At the time, I wrote the series 20 years ago. I was youthful like the girls in the story. I think that was the contributing factor." These decisions didn't come without contention from higher ups, but Takeuchi didn't back down from her vision. Even her own editor didn't understand what Takeuchi was trying to establish. When questioned about why she made each superhero beautiful and avoided the common tropes, she says, "That's how girls' comics are. It's important, right? But back then, the old men at Nakayoshi, like her editor Osano-san, didn't really get that. From the onset, I said I want to make a comic series about a squadron of 5 beautiful fighting girls, and they said, hold up, in a fighting squadron, there's always like one comically obese character and another nerdy girl that wears glasses. How are you going to make all 5 of them beautiful?" And the complaints went on and on. Oh, those old men. I don't think they understand girls' comics at all. She goes on about her creation process despite the pushback, saying, "It was also a challenge when it came to deciding on a color scheme. At first, I had proposed using a pastel color palette, and the old hat, old-timer editor grandpa said, you need to use bolder colors. If you want the magazine to sell, you need to use lots of blues and greens or bright yellows. If you're going to use pink, use a dark pink." And they made all kinds of demands about it. Actually, when I first decided on the color of Sailor Moon's hair, I wanted it to be silver, but the old grandpa editors didn't like that decision either, and they got really upset and said that the magazine would never sell if I used such a dull color. When I first said that I thought blonde hair would be a more princess-like choice for the main character, someone chuckled and said, "At least it's not the grandma style like last time." Upon the release of Sailor Moon, it was clear that Takeuchi made the correct choice fighting for her ideas. Sailor Moon has gone on to sell over 35 million copies, making it one of the best-selling shoujo mangas in the world. To date, the franchise itself has grossed over $14.3 billion worldwide. In 1993, she won the 17th Kodansha Manga Award for Shoujo for Sailor Moon. However, Sailor Moon's success did not stop Takeuchi from continuing her original story codenamed Sailor V while simultaneously writing Sailor Moon. Sailor V ran up until 1997 along with Sailor Moon, but was unfortunately cancelled by Run Run along with the planned anime adaptation. During this period of time, she produced 60 chapters, 18 volumes in total for Sailor Moon. The success of the manga led to a 200-episode anime adaptation, multiple animated films, video games, and merchandise, which took the world by storm. It almost seemed like the perfect moment in time for Sailor Moon to release as a female movement industry shift was taking place. She says, "When I made Sailor Moon, I was in my 20s, and there were a lot of young female managers at Bandai too. In fact, it was long overdue for us to be involved in the industry. Nowadays, there are series like K-On! That I think are really cute, and from what I understand, there are a lot of women on the staff involved in that franchise. Women have a certain aesthetic sense. I think their sensibilities are reflected in the products they make, which is something I've always wanted to see happen. Takeuchi has always advocated for female empowerment in manga and anime. In fact, she talked about why she created Sailor Moon in a 1990s Dateline documentary, saying that there was never anything like it before, female superheroes fighting villains. In another interview with Charles McCarter on EX, the online world of anime and manga, Naoko Takeuchi said, "In Japan, there is a lot of anime targeted specifically at girls. I would like to see this trend continue throughout the world." It's clear that Naoko Takeuchi didn't just create Sailor Moon on a whim, she wanted to create a story that emboldened and empowered readers. Takeuchi was no stranger to the emotional bond a manga could bring to its readers, which is why she remained critical of her early work in Sailor Moon, saying, "I think for people who are in their 20s and 30s these days, they feel the same way about Sailor Moon that I did for Candy Candy, back when I was first beginning to draw the Sailor Moon series. I'm happy about that, but I'm also really embarrassed because my work back then was so sloppy, I was such a rookie, and I didn't have much professionalism. But I never imagined that 20 years later this work of mine would still be so popular, and I can't believe that there's still so many people who read it and love it." But you know, even now when I hear someone say that they love Sailor Moon, that they think it's beautiful, it makes me really happy to hear that. She has stated many times that some characters in Sailor Moon were incredibly challenging to draw for her at the time, as they had very loud costumes. Although she has stated the one character that she enjoyed drawing the most was Umino-kun, as she could draw him in about 5 seconds without even drafting. As contentious as anime viewers versus manga readers can be sometimes with the adaptation, Takeuchi was quite pleased with how the anime turned out. She said at the time, "It's very difficult to adapt an original story into an animated cartoon, but I feel the TV version has been very well made, just as I was hoping. Including the colors and voices, and the development of the stories is quite satisfying, just as I expected." She was so invested with her story, she even invited the voice actresses to her wedding. In fact, Takeuchi refers to herself as the biggest Sailor Moon fan. She loves reading fan fictions of the story and encourages all different interpretations. Although Sailor Moon had risen to be one of, if not the most popular manga and anime at the time, it did not come without controversy. When Sailor Moon was originally adapted into an anime for the United States and English audiences' consumption, fans noticed some pretty glaring misrepresentations from the original work. The westernization of the show started with minor details like changing Usagi's name to Serena and flipping the scenes with cars so they drove on the right side of the road instead of the left. This was all supposedly done to be quote-unquote culturally appropriate for the market. But the most obvious change that the dubbed version had decided to do was to completely censor any representation the show had of LGBTQ+ themes or characters, the biggest one being the love between Haruka and Michiru. In my opinion, the Sailor Moon wiki said it best with a quote, "Although the anime was not graphic, there were several hints given, especially during the Stars season, that Haruka and Michiru had a physical relationship. In the English dub, however, Haruka and Michiru were changed to cousins in order to avoid controversy surrounding homosexuality." The ironic part about this decision was that Takeuchi was worried about how the American audience would perceive Sailor Moon when she found out about these changes, as she wanted to keep the show's original essence. In fact, Takeuchi herself intentionally created the show with some themes of homosexuality, so it was clear that this was a deliberate action to remove some of the story's most important themes. When asked in an interview by Rolla, the relationship between Haruka and Michiru is quite ambiguous. Can you tell us about it? Takeuchi responded saying the relationship between Haruka and Michiru is quite special. I think the most important feeling in the world is friendship. The friendship between them is so strong that it becomes love. There's not only heterosexual love, but there also can be a homosexual love, in this case between two girls. She elaborates further when asked about the potential backlash for this choice, saying, "In Japan, strong girls are very popular. The tradition of my country has been in the Tarazuka, the Japanese theater in which only women take part, the maximum level of feminine emancipation. These actresses cover all roles of the plays, even the male ones. I was inspired by them to create Haruka. It wasn't easy to make children understand how there could be true love between two women. Haruka is a tomboy, she talks and dresses like a boy, and therefore it's natural she falls in love with Michiru." It was quite clear of Takeuchi's intentions with her storytelling, and fans were so outraged by the dubbed version that the dub had to eventually be remade to correctly portray the story the way it was initially intended to be. Takeuchi's creation of Sailor Moon was and always has been with the purpose of including any reader that picks up the story to feel welcomed and embraced. Although it's a shoujo, which is a genre clearly geared towards younger females, Sailor Moon even had a large male audience. Takeuchi cites this happening because, quote, "The senshi are very sexy and the boys like it. In Japan, moreover, boys are quite weak and they search for a strong partner. They want to be dominated and the senshi are ready to do it. Maybe what a lot of authors don't understand is the masochistic component of boys. They write love stories that are now outdated." During the time Sailor Moon was still running, Takeuchi used her newfound celebrity status to do a lot of good. In January 1995, the Kobe earthquake shook Japan. Takeuchi immediately used her position as a celebrity to start raising funds for the families and victims affected. She drew caricatures of people who bought tickets through an auction and used the caricatures as models for minor characters in her comics. The event was very popular as many people wanted to meet her. As the series was winding down in 1997, Takeuchi was cited feeling extremely burnt out towards the end. In fact, she was planning on ending the manga a lot sooner than it ran. As she put it, she was working on art books, script consultations for the anime, drawing, and merchandise. The main reason that the series continued beyond the final battle with Queen Beryl was only because her original plan was to kill off all 5 sailors, and that was considered too dark for Shojo. She decided to take a vacation, but her editors wanted her to work on a new manga while she was vacationing. The demands seemed to never stop. That manga that she was working on during vacation was called PQ Angels and was featured in Naoki. It was about 2 alien girls with the ability to turn into cockroaches who were searching for their princess. The entire process of the series was a complete disaster from start to finish, from Takeuchi's mindset to Kodansha's ineptitude. The series gained some traction, but eventually Kodansha lost 7 pages of her manuscript. Takeuchi decided to call it quits. After the loss of 7 pages of the PQ Angels manuscript, her editor Fumio Osano left Kodansha. Takeuchi followed suit and left Kodansha for Shueisha. Takeuchi eventually created her own studio called Princess Naoko Planning, or for short, P&P. Takeuchi established P&P to better manage her works, mainly Sailor Moon. The studio also encompasses Yoshihiro Togashi's work and has credits in Level E, Hunter x Hunter, and also has musical credits for Shin Kaguya Shima Densetsu and other projects. In 1998, Takeuchi made her first appearance in the United States at the San Diego Comic-Con International Convention. That same year, she also published the Sailor Moon Infinity Collection art book with limited release. While working on her short comic strip comeback piece, Princess Naoko Takeuchi Back to Work Punch, Takeuchi met Yoshihiro Togashi at a weekly Shonen Jump meeting hosted by Kazushi Hagiwara. She worked with Togashi as an assistant and manager of Volume 1 of Hunter x Hunter. Unfortunately, the demand seemed to be too much and she decided to depart from Shueisha to focus on her own ideas. Around the same time, Takeuchi created an idea for a one-shot called Toki Mecha. Funny enough, Togashi also had a similar idea as hers, but never created it. He would sporadically help her with Toki Mecha development and some concept drawings which Takeuchi featured in Volume 1. A year later, Takeuchi and Togashi got married. Many mangakas attended the wedding, along with voice actors and staff of Sailor Moon. They now have 2 children, a son born in 2001 and a daughter born in 2009. They are considered a mangaka power couple due to Takeuchi's success, mainly with Sailor Moon, and Togashi's success with both Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, which he is finally working on again. Hunter x Hunter fans can rejoice, including myself. Fun fact, when drawing herself in her author's notes, sections, and other places, she usually represents herself as a little bunny or sometimes as a human with rabbit ears, and she draws her husband as a dog, her son as a puppy, and her editor and friend Fumio Asano as a pig. Once Kodansha's rights to Sailor Moon expired, Takeuchi returned to the publisher to publish the Materials collection. She also began working on Love Witch, a story about a girl who receives a perfume bottle and becomes a witch but pays a heavy price. It also has a side story known as Sister Witch, but both were abruptly cancelled without any explanation. Takeuchi then started to work on the reprints of Sailor Moon and Sailor V and published Toki Mecha in Nakiyoshi magazine. A few years later in 2003, Takeuchi joined in producing Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, a tokusatsu or live-action version based on her original work. The series was heavily based off of the manga, but was able to dive deeper into themes she was unable to explore in the story. She has stated that there was an offer for Hollywood to adapt her work, but her editor Osano stated the truth is it's really hard to make a movie adaptation with Hollywood. It would be almost impossible to do without messing up the original work. It seems they learned from the initial mistake that the 90s Western adaptation have made on Sailor Moon and declined to go through with this offer. When production ended in 2004, Takeuchi went back to working on Toki Mecha, and her editor Fumio Asano returned to work with her. Takeuchi continued to elevate P&P, her company, and also gave various talks to college students throughout. She kept very busy and even created a children's book for her son for his birthday, which Togashi illustrated, called Obo nu to Chibo nu. Fast forward to 2012, a new anime adaptation of Sailor Moon was in the works. Takeuchi immediately started working on the Kanzenban version of Sailor Moon manga, otherwise known as the Complete or Perfect Edition. This allowed her to go back and fix past mistakes that she was unhappy with her original work. The reboot Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon Crystal was released in July of 2014 and ended in July 2015. 2015 with a 26-episode run which covered the Dark Kingdom and Black Moon arcs in the manga. The first episode had over 1 million viewers within the first 2 days. Takeuchi also wrote the ending theme song Moonbow under her pen name Shirabara Sumire. The series eventually was rebooted for another 13-episode season which covered the Infinity arc of the manga and ended in June of 2016. Although there was some criticism of the reboot by critics, most fans seemed to enjoy it. In 2020, Takeuchi released 2 versions of the all-colored Eternal edition of Sailor Moon, updating new illustrations on the covers. In 2021, she chief supervised the production of Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon Eternal the movie. She also wrote the lyrics for the theme song Moon Color Chain On, once again under her pen name. To this day, Takeuchi still remains heavily involved with all new releases of Sailor Moon content, as she will chief supervise the upcoming production of the sequel to Sailor Moon Eternal, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon Cosmos the movie, which is set to release in the summer of 2023. It will cover the Stars arc portion of the manga and will be technically the 5th and final season of Sailor Moon Crystal, which is releasing as a 2-part film. Some other works of Takeuchi include Chocolate Christmas, Maria, The Cherry Project, Miss Rain, Prism Time, PQ Angels, Tokimecha, and Love Witch. She also helped her friend Marie Koizumi illustrate Mermaid Panic Volumes 1-3, Atashi no Wagamama, and Zatai Kore o Ubate Mizuru. Takeuchi has also written a decent amount of songs in the Sailor Moon anime and live-action series. Naoko Takeuchi has created a story that will live on for generations. To many, her work was and still is a source of inspiration. There's even an International Sailor Moon Day in many countries. The show was the first time some viewers saw an openly gay or lesbian couple on TV and sent positive messages that it's okay to be yourself. Sailor Moon taught a generation about love, female empowerment, strength, and tenacity. It's a story that sticks with many for the large impact it has made. Takeuchi had a dream of becoming a manga artist and far exceeded it. She stuck with her ideals and didn't budge when others tried to change her or her story. Perhaps that is why she feels like she resonates so much with her characters in the story, and perhaps why the story is so easy to connect with for millions across the world. Naoko Takeuchi is a legend in the manga and anime space. I'm sure fans cannot wait to see what she has in store next.